Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dennis. Welcome to Patina Code. This is So You Want to Build an AD.
I'm cold right out, I'm done. Come on.
Hello, once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me for this edition of So You Want to Build an AD, powered by LS Fabrication. And it's LS Fabrication Day today. We're getting the install done on the firewall of Trench Coat here. So without any further ado, let's hop into this install video. LS Fabrication, when precision matters. Hello everyone, I'm Dennis for LS Fabrication, and today I'm going to show you how to install LS Fabrication's bead roll firewall panel on your 1947 to 1955 first series Chevrolet Advanced Design pickup truck. And as you can see, we have our cowl fill panel installed and it's looking pretty nice. Now we're going to complete the look on the face of this truck by adding in our bead roll firewall panels, and then from there we will put in the bead roll toe boards. But that's later on. Right now, we're going to focus on getting the firewall installed. So as you can see, you look at the truck, and for those of you who are working on these trucks, you know that there are a lot of holes throughout this truck. You could spend all day filling these holes or cutting out patch panels and welding them in, grinding it back, and then getting it prepared to do your smear coat. But why bother? These panels from LS Fabrication are designed to fit right here across the front and just totally transform the look of the truck. And it's a super simple and easy process to do. If you can run a welder and you can run the tiger paw or flap disc, you can grind down your welds, get things smoothed out. You aren't going to have any problems doing this. These panels are designed for people like me, such as the at-home non-professional builder, all the way up to the professional level built trucks. It's simple, and there's a ton of ways you can install them if you didn't want to weld them in. We've had people panel bond them on, rivet them on, just spot weld them on, go to the backside and weld them on. You could glue them on. People have used magnets to hold them on. You could use a tech screw or metal tapping screw just to screw the panels in and hold them on that way. It's up to you. But today, I'm going to be cutting out the entire firewall and then replacing it with the bead roll panel as the standalone firewall for this truck. But before you can even do any of the cutting, there's one thing that you got to do first. In this truck, when you look from the inside, there's a set of bracing that runs down the front of the truck. So the first thing you're going to have to do is get the spot welds cut out from this side in order to remove the metal once we cut it out to get this panel out. You got to keep the bracing though, because that adds the rigidity to the firewall. And so you want to keep them, and they run clear up here to the top of the truck. So the simple way to find the spot welds to remove them from this side here is to knock back whatever's on there. You want to get the surface down to bare metal, and what that will do is that it will reveal the places where it is spot welded, and that's where you want to get it out. If you don't have a spot weld cutter, it's fine. Use a drill bit. Just drill through the spot welds and you'll get the panel to release from that bracing. So that's what we got to do first. With all the paint removed and you're down to bare metal, the spot welds are revealed. You can see where you need to go. You can drill these out with spot weld cutter or drill bit. All you need to do is just start drilling and it'll come out. You want to locate the center, hit it with center punch, boom, 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 come back with the drill straight through it. Go through the panel and the bracing. So some people are like, why not just use a spot weld cutter and just cut the panel away? Well, we want to go through the bracing as well, because when we put our new panel up here, we don't want to try to locate where this bracketry is from this side. And then you try to drill the hole and you misdrill. Now you just created work for yourself. You're going to be filling the panel. So leave the panel intact, get it up here, get it tack welded in place, then go behind, clamp your panel and the bracket together, and then you plug weld the bracket to the brand new panel, and you won't have any damage to it. That's the simple way to do it, the best way to do it. So I'm going to drill through the spot weld and pass through the bracing that is on the other side, and then we'll already have our holes located when it's time to spot weld the panel back to the bracing. All right, so with that bit of business done, we have all the spot welds cut out of the bracing that is on the back side of this firewall, and now we're getting somewhere. It's time to break out the panel and do the mock-up process of getting this thing to fit up and mark it out at where we want it to be. All right, we got our panel out. This is the one I'm going with. This one is called the Tracy. There are 4 other sets. You have the DD, the Kalinda, the Holly, and then the Smooth-It one, or just the flat firewall panel that has no bead rolls in it. So check out LS Fabrication's website to determine which one of these firewall panels best suits your build, because I went with this one because I was undecided on whether I was going to put the brake master cylinder on the firewall or if I was going to go under the floor like it is originally. So choosing this one, there is no bead roll designs in the center of it, and that gives me the option to mount the brake booster master cylinder combination up here on the firewall. If I went with one of the other designs, you have the bead rolls here, and it would be a challenge to try to mount your master cylinder and brake booster. So check it out and determine which one you need that's gonna best suit what you're trying to do. Now you got the panel out, it's time to mock it up, and that's what it is. You're just mocking things up right now. And these things were designed to fit precisely. They're 18 gauge steel, so when it's time to weld these, you don't have to worry about melting it or blowing through it. You just have to take your time with the tack weld, space them out, work your way around the whole firewall when you're going to install these. They're laser cut, and the template that was used to produce these came off of a cab that was in really good shape, and that's why they're so accurate. Now you might have some instances where panels don't quite line up, but that's just factory stuff, man. Like these things, well, you're talking about the 40s up to the 50s, you know. It's not like now where we got the robots and the CAD designs machines and all this cool stuff to make things fit precise with the tolerances and everything. So they're designed to fit, and that's what we got here. We got a really good fit. Now we're gonna get our magnet. We're gonna stick our magnet down here, get it set where we want it, getting back up in place. From here, we're gonna get our marker out, and we're gonna trace out the pattern of this firewall. I'm excited about doing this because I need to get this done. I want my truck looking dope, right? So, but I'm gonna take my time because we gotta do it right. So with everything in place, checking to make sure you have it where it needs to be, where you want it to be. You press it on there, and then you take your marker and you trace out the pattern that you have before you. And before you begin the next step, you're going to want to double check where you've marked this, because it's very important to get it right. All right, so with our panel marked up, now it is time to clean the surface, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to be installing and how I'm going to be installing my firewall panels. But first thing you want to do is get the area clean, because after we clean the area off, then we're going to cut, then we're going to start with the whole welding process. So what I'm going to do is clean off right here at this lip, this ridge where the upper cowl meets the firewall. There's a lip right here where the 2 pieces of metal join. We're going to clean this, totally clean that off. Now that we have the whole firewall panel area cleaned off, it's time to put the panel back up here, lock it down and get it in the position that you want it to be in. Then we need to retrace the panel to ensure that this is exactly where we're going to be cutting, and then we can move on from here. All right. So once you're satisfied with the markings that you have on your cab for your firewall, it's now time to cut. You're going to want to go a 1/2 inch inbound of the line that you cut. And why you want to do that is so that you have a good backing for this to mount to. And we're going to get into that right now. And I'm going to show you where I'm going to be cutting my firewall in order to make this thing fit and work and be structurally sound. After we have the panel marked, and we're for sure this is where we want to have our panel, you need to get your tape measure and you need to go a 1/2 inch inbound of your marked line. And that's going to put you right here, right in front of the bracing that is on the back side of this firewall. So it works out perfectly. And the reason for having that extra lip there, so to speak, is so that you have a good mating surface for your panel and it gives it structure because we're going to weld it to that. Now, what I chose to do was draw a line, dotted line, all the way the whole 1/2 inch radius around this. So it looks like a perforated line. And I'm going to continue that on to the driver's side here of the truck, measure a 1/2 inch in from where this panel is, come inbound and cut that same 1/2 inch radius around. And that's going to give me a nice landing spot for the firewall. All right, so now you're dead on for sure where you got your lines marked out. You have your perforated line, which is what we're going to cut. And we've talked about it enough. I've shown you guys what's going on. Now it's time to start with the whole cutting process. This is what you should have. This is what it should look like. And yes, it's crude right now. We're going to go back and we're going to get the grinding wheel out. And we're going to smooth everything out, chamfer everything back, get everything nice and flush. And then we can begin with actually mounting, mocking up, and then welding in our fabricated panels. Something that I'd like to bring to your attention when cutting this out, for those of you who remember, there was a hump right here. There's the remnants of that hump, and it went from here up to there. As you can see, I've been pecking and I've flattened this portion of it out. Now we need to move down and flatten this portion out. Get back there with the hammer and dolly and just flatten it out. That's all you need to do. Get it flat. That way, when we put our panel on, you won't have this raising up and then it'll mount flush across the bottom of this piece here. With everything smoothed out and ready to go, it is now time to clamp the center section of our firewall to the bracing hanging from the top of the cowl. We're going to weld these holes that we drilled through this bracing to the center section. Now you want to take your time, skip around, get good penetration, but be careful not to warp this center section of the panel. So at this point, we have our panel back on the truck, held on with the magnet, and we've just got through welding the bracing that's inside the cab back to the little hump here that we cut around. Now it's time to go on the inside of the cab, draw a line across the bottom of our panel, because I'm going to be cutting that off and then welding it to the ridge that we have left down here at the bottom, and the other half leads downward towards the toe board section. I'm going to show you though, to make sure that you got everything right. You can take your other panel, which we have right here, and just do a test fit, set him up there in the spot where it's supposed to go, and the two halves meet perfectly in the center. Like, you won't have to do any trimming or anything. You'll just have to weld them together. So we know we're on the right track. Now it's time to get this panel off, cut off the excess that we don't need, get it reinstalled up here, held up with the magnet, and then run a few tack welds, get it held in place, and then we're almost there. Everything is fitting the way that I want it. Everything's going to be flush. We're going to get everything clamped down tight, and then we're going to start putting fire to it. So now this is where the all-important lip that we left when we cut all this out comes into play. It gives us a firm backing place. What I'm going to do is run a few spot welds, one here, one there, one out here, and then one over here on the end, to get that just spot welded in before we begin actually tack welding it in and joining it into the truck. This to keep it from moving. We won't have to worry about it even though it's clamped. Just want to be 100% sure. So just small spot welds just to hold it in place. We got our spot welds in. We're gonna let the panel cool off. Then we're gonna go down and around and start tacking it in. So as you can see, we have our bracing now welded in, and we're waiting for that to cool down before we progress with moving forward with the truck. So while it's cooling off, I'm gonna give you a look. I've cleaned it up a bit so you can see how far we've come. And when we go back to work, we're gonna start right here in this archway here. And we're gonna use the heat from the welder to contour this down. So we'll continue with the gapping of the spot welds, but we're going to make sure that it's clamped. And then if we have to use the body hammer to kind of taper it down, we'll keep clamping it and use the heat from the welding to get this to blend in right here. With our passenger side complete, it's time to move over to the driver's side, and the process is exactly the same. You want to get your panel fitted up, clamp it down, then run a few solid tack welds to hold it in place, make sure that it's secure, then clamp the inner bracing to the firewall, spot weld it on, let that cool, then begin welding the panel in a circular motion, skipping around, spot welding the panel to the outside of the truck. So the bottom line here is to take your time and have patience. And over the course of a solid weekend, you can have your bead roll firewall panel installed in the front of your truck. The only thing left to do here would be to spread some filler, get some primer, and paint it. They were designed for non-professionals such as myself, so if I can do it, I know you guys can do it as well. I'm Dennis for LS Fabrication. This has been an install video for the 1947 through 1955 First Series Advanced Design Chevrolet Truck Bead Roll Firewall. Thanks for watching. Now get after it. That's it. It's all done. LS Fabrication, when precision matters. It's that time of the day, guys.
Let me pay attention!
Let me show you something that's brought to you by Joe's Racing Products, with over 30 years of industry-leading innovation, providing whatever you need for on or off the track. Joe's Racing Products, accelerating performance. So today I want to talk about using what you have. You know that's my motto, using what you got to get what you want. In the AD, there are various holes, and they're remnants from the clips and the various components that were on the firewall of the truck. If you're like me and you're shaving the firewall of your vehicle, well then you don't want any of those holes to be there. So instead of just trying to plug weld and fill them, utilize them to create a place to hang your wire loom clips. We're going to be putting studs in this firewall using the existing holes, and it's going to make it that much easier and save you that much more time once you go into the final installation of your truck as far as hanging the wires, because you still are going to need the wires to come out for your headlights, for your wipers, for your signals. So make it easier on yourself, and this little tip just might help you. And even if you're not shaving your firewall, it still looks a lot neater with everything so tidy on the inside. I'm going to show you what we got to do. You're going to need a 5/16 thread pitch, and you're going to need a 1/4 by 20 thread pitch bolt. And then, of course, you're going to need a tap, the angle grinder with the cutoff wheel, or your die grinder with the cutoff wheel, and then the welder. So, starting off, if you notice on the AD, there's the holes, as I mentioned, from things that we've taken off of the truck. Now, the holes over here to the driver's side, they're small. They're a little smaller than a 1/4, but that's okay. That's where the tap comes in. The tap fits perfect. This is a 1/4 by 20 pitch. And you simply stick it in the hole and you tap it as if you were tapping through something thick. This is thin, it's a firewall. So you don't have to go that far in. All you're trying to do is create a thread pitch to capture the threads of the 1/4 by 20 bolt. With that being done, you have a couple choices of the 1/4 20. I prefer the 2-inch with the shoulder, but you can use whatever size, length, and thread pitch count screw you want. for these particular holes up here. So after you do that, you simply just thread in the screw as if you're bolting it in. And why I like the shoulder ones is because it gives you a solid end. Now, here's where the welder comes in. After you get it set up to where you want it to be, you need to get you a set of pliers, kick the welder on, and you're going to put a solid tack on this thing. That's all you want to do. You just want to tack it right now, but make sure that it's a solid tack. Once you have your tack in place, now you need to go to the inside and tack it just a little harder on the inside. Make sure it's a firm, solid tack. Then you come on the outside and you commence to cutting off the head of that bolt. After you got the head of the bolt cut off, get your grinder attachment on or your tiger paw and sand it down flush and then weld it to the firewall of the truck. And then all you gotta do is clean it up. And then you will have a stud on the inside of the vehicle that you can hang your wire loom clamp from. And that's what I wanted to show you.
Step aside and get right behind us.